Amit, what would you want to add to it? You've been working with management teams very much in the midst of the energy transition. What have you seen in
Yes.
terms of shifts in perspective?
Well, let me just start from a more general observation and then come to a specific case of the energy transition. So in general, what we see, and this is not specific to a company, it's seen in company after company that it's relatively easy to exert your leadership in the middle of a crisis. So I'm not downplaying the level of challenge in a crisis. What I'm simply saying is once there is a crisis, people see the need to act, and therefore people are more likely to respond to a leader. And therefore, in that sense, at least a leader's job of convincing people is a bit easier. And then it's only the challenge of managing the situation. But what kind of leadership do you need to display before the crisis happens? So when you are seeing a crisis coming, when it's, as Amy mentioned, when it may be a few years or even a few decades down the road, how do you create that sense of urgency in the midst of so many other priorities? You may be dealing with so many tactical situations. People may be fixated on other things, on maybe investments that need to be made, maybe assets that need to be managed, maybe businesses that need to be tended to. And when you are speaking of a completely different crisis that's coming, you need to devote a lot of time and effort towards mobilization of a company to deal with that crisis. And in that process, to seek new opportunities for how to grow the business. So that's specifically what climate change comes to. And that's why this beast is very difficult to manage because different people have different views and different levels of awareness of a crisis that is to come. So here in this case, at a practical level, let's say if people in a company believe that okay, fine, we understand that climate change is happening. There may be some doubters, but more or less we understand that it's coming. Is it our problem, and why is it relevant now to me? So a leader has to really take that long view and say, okay, even if it's a problem that's coming, it takes a long time to reshape the trajectory of an organization, or it may be for a country as well, to reshape the trajectory of a country, of an economy, in order to deal with this crisis. That reshaping will need so many different elements to it. Firstly, it needs the technologies, the new clean technologies that we need in order to begin that transition. Secondly, it needs the facilitation by the government, by society, in order to make that transition happen, in order to bring those technologies into the mainstream. So it needs a lot of regulatory support. It needs a lot of stakeholders to be aligned, even beyond the boundaries of a specific company. And then thirdly, once you have these two, it also needs a mobilization of completely new commercial models and the ability to persuade your shareholders, the ability to persuade your management that here's how we need to push the needle. And this is a question of leadership, not just at the CEO level, because normally CEOs know a bit about the business as it is, but they really need an upward push with new ideas, with new technologies that may not be on their radar. So this is a question of leadership at all levels within an organization, at all levels within an economy, of people putting in different mindsets, mindset of technology, mindset of maybe a financial expert, a regulatory expert, an economic expert, and of course a business expert. So we need all of these mindsets to converge, to come together, and to create that whole trajectory for the company, for the economy. And that's why it's that kind of leadership, a kind of anticipatory leadership, a kind of long view leadership is something that needs to be present at all levels for us to be capable of handling a challenge like climate change.